Tell us what kind of rock.
Singing all the rock hits, David.
The old rocks, okay.
Now it's time for our next victim on hold it, everybody. It's time for our next victim on the hot seat, David, if you will.
All right, next up we have our resident intellectual, if you will.
Intellectual, oh boy.
Allan Dollison, who tonight is, let's see, is he attacking or defending? He's
challenging Reagan.
Challenging the Reagan's handling of the
Now, Allan, once again, you're on the wrong side, hurting America with your stupid thinking. You are joining the liberal bleeding hearts who are trying to hurt this country and destroy the President of the United States by attacking him when he did a bold and courageous thing in Iran. You know darn well what he did in Iran was in the best interests of the United States of America.
For 6 years, the same president who said that he did that in the best interest of America said that the best interests of America were well served when we did not negotiate with terrorists. He violated that basic tenet that he came into office on. He said, no more will we ever deal with terrorists. We will promise swift and effective retribution.
Wait a minute. Hold on, pal. He did not. Wait. Just a minute. He did not deal with terrorists. He's dealing with the moderates in Iran who are trying to take over from the Ayatollah Khomeini.
The moderates in Iran, who do you think runs the country in Iran? Do you think the moderates in Iran run the country, or do you think the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini still run the country? Of course the Ayatollah still runs the country. Reagan said, look, we need our hostages released. I'm being beaten by the press here because I'm not doing anything to get these hostages released.
How do you know what Reagan? How do you know he said that? Reagan said. How do you know what Reagan said? Were you sitting in the White House when he said that?
I'm not sitting in the White House,
but it is. How do you know what he said?
But he himself has admitted. He himself has admitted that he negotiated and he approved the release of arms by this country to the country of Iran, and he also approved of the country of Israel sending arms shipments to.
Hold on, Allan.
To Iran.
He promised that he would never deal with terrorists. Now, he did not deal with them.
What do you call sending weapons to Iran, saying that we want our hostages released? 3 hostages have been released, but in the same time, 3 more hostages have been released. The net result is that we still have the same amount of Americans that are being held hostage, and Iran has a plane load full of weapons so they can continue on their war with Iraq.
This is what he did. He did not deal with Iran terrorists. First of all, Iran was not responsible for the taking of those hostages.
Those hostages were kidnapped by an organization known as the Islamic Jihad, which is pro-Iranian. They have supported the Iranians in their war with Iraq, and they supported the Iranians when they kidnapped 52 American hostages.
What I'm trying to tell you is
Even your audience is against you on this one. That proves it. Even your audience is against you. You're just sitting alone there with President Reagan. Nobody else agrees with you.
Let me ask you. He says the audience doesn't agree. Do you believe that Ronald Reagan is the best president we ever had? Okay, there you are. There you are. You know what you're talking about. Now listen.
These same types of people also agreed that in an LA Times poll, 79% of the people believed that President Reagan was lying.
Oh,
he was lying. 79% of people felt he was lying. In
that same poll, Dollison, dimwit, in that very same poll, it showed 58% of the people in this country agree with the way President Reagan is doing his job in office. How do you answer that?
Listen, Minnie Ditt, those same people. See, you know you're losing. See, you know you're losing this argument, so your only out is to kick me off.
You don't insult me on my own program. I'll throw your butt out of here.
You just insulted me on your own program, so I have
the right to insult my guest. It's my program, right?
It's my privilege.
Hold on. Let me tell you something. What the president tried to explain, but liberal lunatics like you don't want to listen.
Is Bruce liberal lunatics? Is Bruce Hershenson a liberal lunatic?
Bruce Hershenson, I'm ashamed of him, of the things that he said, and he's a friend of mine.
What about Gerald Ford? What about George Shultz? What about Casper Weinberger? What about Bob Dole? Are those liberal lunatics? They're conservative Republicans, and even they don't back the president on this.
Let me answer you. What the president of the United States has done may not always be the most popular. Reagan didn't have to do this, but he did what was right for the United States of America.
Right.
Hold on. Ford and Carter criticized Ronald Reagan for negotiating with the terrorists in Iran. How hypocritical can you get? Hold on. It has now, hold on, you don't may not know this. It has now been revealed Ford and Carter criticized Reagan for opening a dialogue for dealing with Iran, and now we find out in their presidencies, in their own presidencies, in the Carter presidency, in the Ford presidency, they also secretly were trying to open a dialogue with Iran.
Well,
what do you think about that?
First off, under all of the Ford presidency and most of the Carter presidency, the Shah was in power with Iran, and he was friendly to the United States. They weren't trying to open a dialogue. You're completely distorting the facts.
I'm not distorting the facts at all. You know damn well who was in charge when Carter was the president of the United States.
When Carter was the president of the United States, when he entered, the Shah was in power. When he left, the Ayatollah was in power. But in the beginning, he tried to open a dialogue with a country that we already had a dialogue with. We had diplomatic relations.
Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter are criticizing Ronald Reagan because they have a personal axe to grind. Gerald Ford will never forgive Ronald Reagan because he feels that he was the one responsible for him losing the presidency to Carter. And Carter has an axe to grind because he'll never forgive Ronald Reagan for the humiliating defeat he gave Jimmy Carter.